Hello, Scammell.
Hello, Bratters.
I've just come back from a Battlefield Hardline preview event.
Battlefield?
Oh, man, if only it was called that. And interestingly, it was a single-player preview.
That's different.
Which you just told me you haven't... You don't seem to remember Battlefield doing those before?
I don't think they've ever done single-player previews, no.
And that's kind of...
actually, I tell a lie. They did do one for Battlefield 3.
Ah, right, okay.
But they did throw multiplayer as well. I think this is the only single-player only event that I recall.
And that's interesting because, well, I think Visceral, who are working on this game, it's not DICE. DICE have some kind of overseeing, particularly the multiplayer side of things. But Visceral have a single-player focus in the past, really, don't they? Like, do you look at the Dead Space series?
Yeah,
you don't
the
think
Dead Space
multiplayer.
men. Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. And so I went into the Hardline demo and we played 2 episodes. It's split into episodes. It's supposed to kind of mimic almost like a TV show kind of feel.
I'm not feeling it already, Braz.
I guess. And the first episode was the tutorial. And it had a very kind of specific tone. We were in a car. I was, focused on the playable character next to his partner. And like for the first time in a Battlefield single-player story, at least recently, that character had a story and a history, and that was a bigger focus than it's been before.
So what is his story? What is his history?
He's from Cuba originally, but he grew up on these streets, man.
Of course he did.
These fucking streets. This is where he's from. He understands them. He knows the people.
So he's pretty gangster.
Yeah, like he gets the job done, kind of guy. And as we were driving around, I wasn't driving. The AI partner was driving, so I was just looking around the vehicle, looking at things. And we drive past an old lady, like struggling with. This was a really weird bit actually, struggling to get the lid on her bin. And swearing, and like we pulled over.
Wait, what? Hang on. This is Battlefield.
Yep.
This is a Battlefield game in which the opening is you as a policeman driving past a lady, an old lady, struggling to put the lid on.
I'd say
her...
she was middle-aged, but yeah.
All right, a middle-aged woman struggling to put the lid on her bin. Okay,
Correct.
Carry on.
And she was like, "Fucking this fucking bird, fucking." Looked like she was in a lot of kind of stress about it. Not really sure what was going on.
Yes.
We stopped, pulled over, the windows down. Excuse me, Mom, is everything all right? Yes, these lids don't fit on the bin anymore, do they?
You're making this up.
Nope, this is what happened. And then we drove off, and we eventually got to the place.
What? So what was the point of that scene?
I think it was to show that he cared about the people.
He's a community guy.
Yeah, he didn't know this woman, but she lived on his kind of patch, and he cares about them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we're driving around. We eventually get to the kind of. We're after a suspect to do with there's some kind of overarching story about liquid cocaine being sold, and we know someone that's involved in that. And you go there, you arrest his partner, and eventually that leads you to a hideout. And it all feels like a game about being a police officer. Admittedly, it's very action heavy, but it was a game about being a police officer. Fast forward to chapter 9 in the story, and I ended the demo by ziplining off a skyscraper after robbing a vault, and as I was ziplining down, a helicopter flew past, got tangled in my zip wire. I'm flying all over the place because I'm now attached to a helicopter, swinging all over the shop.
Of course.
I swing into another skyscraper where there's a bunch of bad guys. They all look at me, get ready to shoot me, and the zip wire pulls me back out again. We eventually keep swinging around, crash into the ground, the helicopter explodes, and my chap gets up and points his gun at some enemies. And that was the end of the demo. So 2 quite different tones there.
That's just what happens in the line of duty.
Yeah, well, sometimes you're
maybe that's what they should recall it. Battlefield in the line of duty.
There we are.
There you go.
It was weird.
Advanced hard lines.
Like generally throughout the whole game, it felt like Visceral had a particular kind of game in mind, and then they had to fit a bunch of Battlefield stuff into it as well. And yeah.
So why was this happening in episode 9? Is the story that there's a bunch of criminals that are working towards a huge big heist?
Oh no,
or something like that, or is it just each episode is a different crime on another different day?
It was all connected to the same story. I believe in episode 9 we were maybe doing something above and beyond our kind of maybe breaking some of the rules. We're a hard cop, it's hard times. Sometimes you got to bend those rules to catch the bad guy.
Hard times? Out there blowing up helicopters.
Sometimes that involves, fleeing a heist on a zip wire.
I say this a bit disapproving. I mean, if I was to see it, I'd be like, that's pretty cool.
Also,
but Yeah, I know what you mean. Tonally, it's a bit weird.
And actually, another really great point in that, I didn't do it myself, but I saw someone else do it after I finished. When you smash into that skyscraper... sorry about that. Where there was a bunch of bad guys, and they all turn to look at you, and you just literally smash through the glass.
Yeah.
You're there for about less than a second before you're pulled out again. You do have time to flash your badge at them. And I don't know what happens, but you that is a possibility. And so flashing the badge, core mechanic in this game, when you're doing the kind of stealthy aspects of it. This is what I mean. It feels like two different games.
Sounds like true crime.
Yeah, a little bit, but with Battlefield shooting.
I don't know what it wants to... You're explaining it all to me, and I still don't know what it wants to be.
At first, I thought it was going to be closer to something like The Wire.
Yeah.
It then turned into Die Hard. I don't know what it's going to be, really. So gameplay-wise, there are some interesting stuff. I was actually really impressed by the start of episode 9 when you're breaking into this penthouse area. It's the one that you later zipline off.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in the game, I rarely feel like this in Battlefield single-player campaigns. I felt I had some degree of freedom, so I could kit myself out. I could pick which weapons I was taking with me, change them at any point, and there were several approaches to get into this penthouse. You could maybe go up the car park on the right-hand side, use the zip line. You're never told to do this. It's just if you kind of put the pieces together, zip line into one of the first floor of this building and avoid some of the guards in doing so. You can go around the back, do some stealthy stuff, knock someone out and get in without being seen. You can walk through the front door and start shooting everyone. It's
because the video they put out, was it E3 maybe when they showed...
Gamescom.
Gamescom.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit like Far Cry 3 did.
Yeah, because they refer to it as, I think it was like a fortress assault or something. It seems to be the term they're using, where you're attacking a certain area like this penthouse, and there are multiple ways of doing it. And you're rewarded for maybe being a bit stealthy. Is
that a big thing these days? Because Bad Company, original Bad Company did this stuff. That was just a big it wasn't a sandbox, it was a big open map.
Yeah.
And I don't know if using that as the selling point now is where you've done that before.
Yeah, definitely. I just think after playing the Battlefield 3 campaign, which was
3 and 4, they were super linear, yeah.
And 4 had some. I remember just the issues where if you walked even slightly out of the kind of path that you're supposed to be going on, you'd get a countdown.
Yeah.
I did experience one of those. Was really disappointed actually to get that because it was later on. I'm still in the same building. I'm defending it, and I have some time to kind of set up a perimeter. All great stuff because it means that once again I've got some freedom. I can pick to equip trip mines and certain weapons that will benefit me. And I saw a spot where I knew they were going to attack me. There was kind of a fire exit, I think, or something. And so I set up trip mines there and kind of made my stand there. And I knew it was almost like a spawn location, that the enemies were going to keep coming through this doorway. I tried to go through the doorway to try and maybe stop them from coming up in the first place. Immediately, you've got 10 seconds or we're restarting this whole thing. Yeah. Which, once again, I feel like the game that Visceral were almost thinking about making is held back by the fact that it's a Battlefield game. Yeah. So, yeah, the kind of... the cops and robbers stuff.
But when you say it's a Battlefield game, what makes it a Battlefield game?
The moment you stop being stealthy, the moment you stop flashing your badge and handcuffing people and getting extra points for doing non-lethal takedowns, the moment that stops, you get discovered and you start shooting, it feels like you're playing Battlefield 3 or 4 single player, except you're not. It's not modern military setting.
Right.
It feels almost identical.
Is that a good thing?
I don't think so. I'm not really. Well, I think the Battlefield.
Is it not going to have this sort of
pretty dreadful recently?
Yeah. Is it not going to have the kind of home front type thing where you're a cop, so you've got some training or whatever.
I did kill,
but you're not a military guy.
I killed over 50 guys throughout my hour and a half of the game.
I don't know.
And subdued, much more. And
it kind of sounds like what Call of Juarez did with the cartel to a degree, and that was a terrible game. I guarantee this will be better than that was. But I don't know. I mean, the mixture of these sort of mechanics, I don't know if they belong in a Battlefield game. I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest, I think Hardline could have been something better or more interesting.
It sounds like both sides, they can't go either direction too far because then it dilutes either one of them.
Exactly, and I think the middle ground is just a little bit boring. Another good example of this actually is, so throughout the missions, you can be searching for evidence, and it's what cops do. Evidence, solves investigations, and it's quite interesting that all the evidence is there's optional kind of investigations that you can be looking into, and they're found across multiple episodes, so it all ties into this bigger story. However, the annoying bit is that you find the evidence by using your police scanner, which is the most advanced thing I've ever heard of, because it's attached to every single database that you could possibly need, and
It's just a real world,
you
bro.
press R1 to bring it up, and evidence
Yeah.
will glow green, and you hold X
Wonderful.
on it, and it will absorb that evidence into your database
Wow.
and give it some context. I'm all right with that. What I wasn't okay with was that the scanner vibrates when you get close to evidence. So you're playing a game where you're supposed to at least think that you're a cop and you've got these kind of optional things going on, and you walk through a room and your scanner vibrates, your controller vibrates because there's maybe a picture on the...
So there's no sense of
on the
discovery
table.
or anything like that?
Absolutely not. And I think that's really disappointing. The investigations, as far as I can tell, if you complete them, you're given some rewards, which I think some of them are actually multiplayer rewards, and it ends up just being another way of doing collectibles, which is, come on, like, if you're going to go with cops and robbers, go with cops and robbers a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sound quite down on it, and that's because, well, I am, but it has some interesting stuff. It's a better campaign than 3 and 4 from what I've seen so far, but it's still too close to them,
Yeah.
which is a shame. It was weird to see a Battlefield game focusing on this particular subject, and it's a bit weird to play it.
It's just an odd one that... I mean, Battlefield single-player campaigns have never been particularly amazing. I actually really enjoyed Bad Company 2's campaign. And, you know, I thought Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 campaigns were all right. Battlefield 3 a little less so. They were okay campaigns.
Yeah, very
There are
good.
there are far better single-player campaigns in other games. And I don't know if... Because they do seem to be pushing this single-player side of it quite strongly.
Yeah, I mean, the characters are much more fleshed out. They've got, you know, some fairly big-name voice actors involved, and it's...
I mean, that's the thing. Like, clearly, the message they're trying to put out is, we acknowledge that you've not been great fans of previous single-player campaigns in Battlefild.
Yeah.
Here's a great single-player campaign in Battlefield. And I don't know if they're actually going to achieve that, or whether it's just noise at the moment.
Yeah, there were hints that it was getting close to that, but yeah, I would have preferred to see Hardline and not Battlefield Hardline, at least in the single-player side of things today. I think that might... I don't know how my mind will change on that front. Just because of the things like that. Where every time they approached the kind of, you're a policeman doing police work, they almost had to backtrack immediately, and it all feels really kind of surface-level stuff, instead of being a game about being the police officer.
I'd just love to know the actual real... Like, what makes this a Battlefield game? What makes it a Battlefield game? And I don't know if anyone can answer that. Like, the answer that we'll get back is probably, well, it's 64 player on a multiplayer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Well, I mean, any game could do that if they came up with the technical side of it. But what, you know, there's no tanks, there's no jets or anything like that in this, and to me, that's a central part of a Battlefield
I guess
game.
what you're asking is, what's the point in going with cops and robbers, I guess, unless you...
Well, I mean...
Unless you're going to go with it to a fuller degree.
Well, let's consider everything. Like, what I've seen of Rainbow Six Siege interests me far more than what I've seen of Battlefield Hardline. Both similar themes, cops and robbers, to a degree. I mean, this is, you know, Rainbow Six is SWAT teams and I don't know what you want to call them. Terrorists, I guess, is what you might call them. I'm not sure.
Bad dudes.
Bad guys. But if you're going to do it, why not do it a little bit more like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the appealing things, although Siege is still way over the top, it's got an underlying sense of realism, which is the interesting part, right?
I mean, I haven't played it, but it looks like it will play like you are part of a police unit.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I'm not convinced it does.
Kind of like with Homefront, if you remember playing that. Where
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're a civilian defending America. Okay, but why? Why? What difference does it make? Not a whole lot.
I gotta say, all of the I'm a huge Battlefield fan, mostly for the multiplayer, admittedly. But what I've seen from the various trailers and walkthroughs and things like that of Hardline single player, it just doesn't really, it's done nothing for me. The characters, the setup, I don't know. It's just, I can't get excited for it, and that's the problem.
And annoyingly, I think they were close as well at one point. I think they've had to shoehorn the Battlefield side of the game into this, and I think that makes it a little less interesting, a little less important.
It's one of those weird games. It's like, where is it? Where does it stand in the market, really? Because it's been heavily delayed, and
for the right reasons, I think. Like it seems.
Don't get me
the
wrong.
Multiplayer beta that they released. I'm impressed that they've knocked it back specifically to try and tackle those issues.
Mm.
Yeah, it still doesn't do a whole lot for me, but hopefully, that side of the game will.
It's good that they're listening, I agree. But at the same time, you've got to think, hang on, if this has been delayed this close to launch, because bear in mind that these games actually wrap up a fair amount of time in advance and go and release. They must have been planning on shipping that game, or not shipping, but going gold essentially 3 months after it was revealed.
Yep.
For them to come out and go, yep, we're delaying it based on your feedback.
Mm-hmm.
At that stage, it kind of goes, oh, you can't have been that confident then in what you had.
One of the things the executive producer was talking about, a lot of the answers were very, very safe, but one thing they talked about in terms of that beta is that they were worried that maybe some console gamers saw that beta as a demo, and
but that's because how publishers have marketed betas for years.
Yeah, and I think that's.
And if they want to start pointing the finger at the people playing them, then maybe they should actually appreciate what they've done over the years and gone, your pre-order bonus is a fucking beta.
Yeah.
So.
Whereas I think this one does at least sound like they were. Maybe they didn't plan it to do it to quite this extent, but it sounds like they have used it as a testing ground, as betas.
But you can't then complain when people go, oh, they don't understand what it is, because for years you've been selling them as things that they aren't.
Yeah.
So, that annoys me quite a bit, to be honest. But whatever.
All right. Yeah. Well, the single player side of stuff. Yeah. I liked the bit where I got trapped in the helicopter and spun around. That was exciting.
Alright, I'm Detective Inspector Tam McLeish and this is a shitebag test. Click that and subscribe. If you didn't, you're a shitebag and you're going in there, right?